So usually poverty is measured in terms of income or consumption, or things one at a time, like child mortality or malnutrition or not having education. But again, going back to the participatory studies, when poor people talk about their lives, it's much more integrated. You know, you wake up and your child is crying, your roof is leaking, you're wondering if you're going to have a job today. You go out to the neighborhood and there may be, you know, problems or threats there. And so a measure of poverty that more accurately captures poor people's experiences has to look at what we call the joint distribution of deprivations. So the profile of simultaneous or overlapping deprivations, whether it's in health, education, housing, employment, whatever, that really impact people's lives. And it was a challenge to do that for many years because the data that we have on poverty is very messy. It's not cardinal data like income that goes from 0 to billions. It's where do you get your water from? What's your house made out of? And so getting a mathematical, rigorous framework for putting those together into numbers was a challenge. So we built on a counting tradition both in Latin America and Europe, and an axiomatic, more formal tradition, and tried to bring them together. I did that work with James Foster, who's very, very good, much better than I am, in axiomatic and theoretical work, who had authored the most widely used income poverty measure, the Foster-Greer-Thorbecke Index, when he was a graduate student. And so we together developed a way of extending that into multidimensional space. And I think it got a little bit of interest because at the end of the day it's also quite simple. And so it does what an academic paper has to do, but it also can be explained to at least the most simple versions of it, to people who have no interest in measurement and are just wanting to have numbers that they can use. So just to give an example of the global multidimensional poverty index, you take a set of indicators of deprivations like years of schooling, malnutrition, water, sanitation, electricity, child mortality. And for each person, in a sense, you're asking, has your life been impacted by this? And for the simplest measure, you simply take away a yes or a no, a 0 or a 1. And so you see their profile of deprivations. And then with weights, you add them up to get the percentage of possible deprivations that they experience. And people are poor if they experience some degree of deprivations, and that's for the technical and political people to set. It could be if you have any deprivation, you're poor. It could be if you're deprived in everything, you're poor. Or it could be somewhere in the middle. And we permit all of the different options. But once you say, okay, if I'm deprived in a third of the indicators, then I'm multidimensionally poor. Then you can see, well, of the entire population, how many people are multidimensionally poor. And so that's, in a sense, the percentage of people who are poor. And that's very easy for journalists to understand. And then we add one more thing, which is, among those poor people, what's the average percentage of deprivations they have at the same time? Because it's much different if it's 90%, which is very bad, than 50% or 35%. And this intensity also gives it very strong properties because we can then break it down by indicator. So that's the methodology. And it's useful because it gives one number, and then you can break it down by indicator. You can show the percentage of people who are poor, the average intensity of poverty. And then you can do that nationally by rural, urban, by gender, by age, by ethnicity, by different variables. So it, in a sense, gives a lot of levers for policymakers to understand, okay, in this particular area, these are the nexus of deprivations that are afflicting people.